Massive update from General Manager Zach Kleiman after last night's round 1 selection of the NBA draft. Of course, the GM made comments of Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. But hello, everybody. Welcome back to Grizzlies Digest. I'm Tristan Harlan. And before we begin, I want to remind everybody that, hey, 93.8% of you are not subscribed. And, you know, we're continuing the trend of climbing the subscribed bar and decreasing the non-subscribe bar. So remind everybody that if you like what you see, like what you hear, like to hear about the Memphis Grizzlies and, you know, dive into some discussions in the comments, make sure you're clicking that red subscribe button. It's everybody's favorite price, free $99. Now, of course, last night was the first round of the NBA draft, and after the draft, Zach Kleiman had some comments and held a press conference and talked about the status of the team, why they took Cedric Coward, where they took him, and why they traded up, why they traded Desmond Bane, and so on and so forth. But the first thing that, you know, he really said was that they intend to build around Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. I mean, he's got it on the record, yes, that the intent is to continue to build around Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr. And he also said that sometimes you need to take a step back, be as honest as you can be about where the team is at, and be willing to take different avenues to work towards winning a title, and that's what we did. And now I sat and I watched the 14-minute long press conference. It's on the Memphis Grizzlies YouTube channel if you want to check it out for yourself. But the number one thing I got from the press conference is that they don't think the team is one piece away from winning a championship. They think they're one piece away from making the next step. But the title contention is kind of up in air, kind of a gray area for the staff and the team. So be it from the comments Kleiman made last night. And I don't know if that's if that's what Grizzlies fans want to hear, because, I mean, you go back over the course of the history of the Memphis Grizzlies. I mean, they moved to Memphis in 2001. In the 2000s, they were originally in Vancouver for a couple seasons, and they moved to Memphis. They were on a dominant stretch of being in the postseason, being in the playoffs. I mean, I'm talking grit and grind era with Mike Conley, Marc Gasol, Zach Randolph, Tony Allen. Quincy Pondexter was in there. Rudy Gay was in there. OJ Mayo was in there. Shout out OJ Mayo, by the way. That's a name you don't hear no more because he got blacklisted from the NBA. But nonetheless, if they don't think they're only one piece away, then something's got to be going on. The Grizzlies, to me, I think are one piece away from contending from a title, because, like I said earlier, I believe I said it yesterday during my reaction to the Cedric Coward draft selection, is that Grizzlies being one piece away from a title is a very complicated and loaded statement because of how competitive the West is. Now, I do recall seeing in the comments somebody's talking about expansion and talking about the Grizzlies moving to the East, and right now there's no rumors and there's no discussion about that I've seen. Now, if you guys have seen something, be sure to tag it in the comments, or, you know, put the link in the comments so I can look at it, Jared can look at it, other people can look at it, and possibly formulate a video on that, talk to you guys about that. But in my opinion, if the Grizzlies do move to the Eastern Conference because of league expansion, then that would be huge for Memphis. But that's not the topic of today's video. Today's video is not about Zach Kleiman's comments last night during the press conference after the first round of the NBA draft. So I'm going to go back to that before I go on another spiel that I can get into during a different video, during a different day. But, of course, putting the rumors to rest that Jaren Jackson's going to be traded, saying that they're fully intended on building around John Jaren. Now, when he said that sometimes you got to go back and you got to look and you got to retool, it's kind of me paraphrasing this how he said it. But look, here's the thing, and I'm just going to be honest, guys. Grizzly fans need to stop saying they need to trade Jaren Jackson Jr. They need to stop saying they need to trade Ja Morant, because let's be honest here. Desmond Bane, as great of a player as he is, I'll miss him in a Grizzlies uniform. But the number one priority is re-signing Jaren Jackson to an extension. And you can't do that with 3 superstars on your team that are making over $100 million a year. Not a year, but salary, $100 million. I mean, Ja Morant, he's going to be getting a lot of money in about a year when his extension's up. Jaren Jackson Jr. is currently trying to work toward it now. But the problem is, and this is kind of where I want to go with this, with how I'm going to articulate this kind of conversation, is that if you go back 10 years, okay, 10 years is 2025, so it would have been 2015, it had been the tail end of the grit and grind era, and the Grizzlies are kind of on the downhill slope they were for 4 years until they drafted Ja Morant. They drafted Jaren during that time frame. But Andrew Harrison was starting for us. Tyreek Evans was starting for us. PJ Harrison was starting for us. I mean, Joakim Noah at one point was starting for us. I mean, the Grizzlies were bottom feeders. I mean, let's just be honest. They were horrible, and that's what led to us getting higher picks to take Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr. the same year that Marvin Bagley was taken pretty high in the draft order. But just some of these guys that are on Twitter or on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, on Instagram, a lot of these people take into account that 4 to 5 years, or not even 4 to 5 years ago, over 10 years ago, the Grizzlies were in the Western Conference Finals battling against the Spurs, and they lost in 4 games. Do you think that they were calling for Zach Randolph to get traded then? Do you think they're calling for Zach Randolph to get traded when the Grizzlies lost to the Lob City Clippers or lost to the Oklahoma City Thunder, who ended up going to the finals and losing to the Heat, or LeBron got his first title with the Miami Heat? No, they weren't. Partially because Twitter wasn't really huge back then, but and here's what I want to get off my chest, because the fact that people were saying trade Jaren or look to trade Jaren Jackson or whatever is kind of uncalled for. Because yes, look, I get it. He has foul trouble. He has games where he should be in longer that he ends up fouling out. But this guy is the cornerstone of this franchise. Ja and Jaren are the 2 cornerstones. Now, we'll see over the years if Zach Edey can live up to that hype once he gets off the injured list. If Cedric Coward can live up to that. If Scottie Pippen Jr. can live up to that. If Santi Aldama, if he gets re-signed, if he can live up to that. Because here's the thing, okay? The Grizzlies aren't going to go out and sign just a magical superstar in free agency, because A, they don't have the money, B, they don't have as much cap space as other teams have because they're a smaller market, and C, they like where they're at. Zach Kleiman said it. He likes where they're at. They're you give them that one piece, possibly being Coward, you may see a lengthy playoff run. Now, the big thing is the West is so competitive right now, and this is a conversation we'll dive into as the season progresses, but the West is so competitive right now, we don't even know if the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to repeat as Western Conference champions because of how competitive it is. But overall, grand scheme of things, Kleiman had a lot more to say too. I mean, of course, talking about the Desmond Bane trade, sometimes you need to take a step back, be as honest as you can be where the team is at, and be willing to take different avenues to work towards winning a title, and that's what they did. And then he made a comment about Santi Aldama. Now, I've been on here talking about a possible Santi Aldama trade. I know Jared possibly has been on here talking about a Santi Aldama trade, but Kleiman says they think very highly of Santi Aldama. So, who's to say they don't re-sign Santi Aldama to a 2-year, $20 million deal, pay him 10 years for 2 years, and, see where they're at after that. But the number one priority has got to be re-signing Jaren. And with tonight being round number 2 and the Grizzlies having 2 picks, the 48th pick and the 56th pick, look, there's a lot of unanswered questions. Vince Williams Jr., is he going to get traded? Gigi, is he going to get traded? Those 2 names were being floated around on social media about possibly being traded, but the fact of the matter is that the Grizzlies really don't have a roster space for 2 more draft picks. I was looking at that prior to recording this video, and unless they put them on a 2-way deal or they immediately go straight down to the hustle, you're possibly going to have to see somebody get cut, traded for more draft capital. or some catch considerations, because right now the roster looks pretty stacked. And again, that's not saying if they draft a center and release Jay Huff or trade Jay Huff or whatever they're going to do, it's going to be fun to watch. But overall aspect of what Kleiman said in his press conference is this: they're rebuilding. They're not rebuilding. They're not rebuilding. They're not contending. They're staying afloat. That's what we're gonna say. They're staying afloat. Their plan is to build around John Jaren, because I mean that's just the best way I can phrase that statement, is build around John Jaren. John Jaren, they're possibly 2 years away from title contention. Who knows? We'll see how this season goes. And the Bane trade wasn't a slap in the face to anybody. All the parties that were involved knew. He loves Casey. Kleiman loves Contavious Caldwell-Pope, Cole Anthony. He loves Santi Aldama. So I'd say right now, Grizzly fans, Kleiman, he's comfortable and he's content where he's at. We'll see if anything changes from tonight to start of free agency to the start of the regular season, because we still have a couple months until the start of the 2025-2026 regular season. But I think that's going to do it for this episode of Grizzlies Digest. Want to remind everybody before I go away for right now is that 93.8% of you are not subscribed. We're starting to track that number down and the subscribe number up. So make sure you guys are clicking that red subscribe button for all your Grizzly news and Grizzly rumors, reports, everything along those lines. And if you like talking about the Memphis Grizzlies, be sure you're clicking that red subscribe button to hear more from me, Jared, and others. This has been another episode of Grizzlies Digest. I'm Tristan Harlan signing off, telling you that I will be back for reactions after the draft selections have been made in round 2. And until then, see you guys.